Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. President, thank you for being here, as well as the rest of the panel for joining us today. For almost 70 years, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization has formed the cornerstone of national security policy for the post-war world order. The strength of our alliance has successfully defeated communism, halted genocide, protected our citizens from terrorism, and maintained cohesion with our like-minded democratic partners. NATO is not some outdated relic from past conflicts. We're living in a world where repression is on the rise and human freedom is again increasingly at threat. Our resolve and stability has helped maintain peace in a world drowning with strong men. That is why I strongly believe in the NATO Alliance. Just last week, Chairman Keating and I introduced a resolution commemorating the 30th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall, a symbol which divided Europe between hope and prosperity on the one side and despair of communism on the other. Unfortunately, it appears that there are some in the NATO alliance that have forgotten the pain of living behind the Iron Curtain and are flirting with the same repressive strategies employed by the former Soviet Union. It's important in this process and discussion to also recognize the misinformation and the division that Russian counter-misinformation plays in building these problems. I'm worried about President Orban, for instance, open praise of repressive leaders like Vladimir Putin. Maintaining cordial relations with one's neighbors is necessary, but openly praising the leader of a nation who would oppress your people given the chance seems very ill-advised. But I believe that no leader has turned their back on NATO's democratic values as much as President Erdogan of Turkey. Whether it's stifling political dissent, jailing journalists, increasing cooperation with Russia, or the recent incursion into Syria, it's clear that the U.S. must seriously reevaluate its relationship with the Turkish government. 18 months ago, President Erdogan came to the United States, where he looked on as his security forces violently attacked peaceful protesters in Washington, D.C. It's only fitting that he's back here in D.C. today as we hold this hearing. America must make clear that we stand with freedom-loving people of Turkey, but that we cannot and will not support Erdogan's spiral into authoritarianism. I also think it's important that in order to talk about fixing internal governments within the NATO alliance, we have to follow through on our promises to countries that we make to come into NATO if they make reforms. I just got back from being in the country of Georgia for a week, and it was amazing to me to watch an occupied friend, a great friend of the United States, continue to stand patiently in the face of Russian provocations, including borderization, including kidnapping of people on the other side of the illegally occupied territory. But Georgia continues to press ahead with fixes to its judicial system, to its media, with fixes to its governance in order to follow through on the promise made to them by the NATO alliance. But there are a couple specifically in NATO that are scared of provoking the Russians, which actually is always amusing to me that the NATO alliance would be afraid of an economy 1/30th the size. In closing, I want to note that while I am concerned with the regression of democratic values in Europe, they are still our allies. As long as they're willing to work with us to strengthen their democracy, we will never abandon them. I look forward to hearing from the panel today. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield back the balance.